Greetings, fellow barbarians. It is I, Alan Odinson, and you are listening to the Barbarian Lounge podcast. I want to thank you guys for joining me today. We've got a good show lined up for you. Let's get a few things out the way right off the bat so we can go ahead and sweep this under the rug and get started with our regular content. First off, if you haven't checked out our website, check out thebarbarianlounge.com. You can go there and check out our online store that we have set up there. We're constantly adding products to that particular store. Right now, we just added up 2 tourniquets. We've got a pocket tourniquet and a combat tourniquet on there. The pocket tourniquet is modeled after the Rats tourniquet. Very, very vital piece of gear that you need to have on you at all times. If you are someone who carries any sort of weapon for any sort of practical applications throughout your life, you need to be trained in medical. You need to have medical on you. Your kit does you no good if you do not have it on you. A pocket tourniquet, one of our pocket tourniquets especially, is the way to go. Very low profile. You can carry it in your pocket, apply it in seconds, and get back into the fight if need be. We also have our combat tourniquet on there that's modeled after the combat, the combat application tournament, the CAT tourniquet. We got that on there as well. All of those at low discount prices for you, our listeners, and each and every purchase you make supports the show. Speaking of supporting the show, if you are not a member of our Patreon site, I urge you to do so. For just $1 per episode, you can get access to exclusive content, as well as we're going to be setting up here in the very near future. Getting some things lined up for it right now. Probably looking at it more starting around the beginning of next year. I'd like to launch it around January 1st, if possible. But I want to set up a forum that is also going to be members only. If you're not a member of the Patreon site, you will not be given access to that forum. So that forum, man, we're going to have some things going on there. We're going to be able to carry on the conversation. You're going to see me on there quite a bit, answering questions, providing information exclusive to our listeners. I know I've gotten some feedback from our listeners who have become patrons, and they are enjoying and really eating up those exclusive episodes. You're guaranteed to get at least one weekly exclusive episode, exclusive content on that Patreon site. Now, let me explain to you how it works. Basically, what you can do is you can donate whatever amount you want. It's up to you. A lot of people have been donating $1, and that is fine with me if that's all you can do. So basically, you go there and you donate $1, and what it does is it charges you per episode that we upload to the site. We upload 8 episodes, no more than 8. I've limited it to 8. Only 8 episodes per month, so it ends up costing you about $8 a month to get exclusive content and support the show. We need your support here, people. That's the thing that keeps us going. It keeps food on the table, keeps the lights on in here, and without your support, it would not be possible. So get the products, go there, become a patron, give us some support, get access to that exclusive content, and there will be more things coming your way here soon. If you haven't subscribed to our host website, it's thebarbarianlounge.podbean.com. You can go there. You can also find us on iTunes and Stitcher as well. Our sponsors, Odinson Archery, OdinsonArchery.com. Traditional bows made from non-traditional products. There's a couple new things up on there. We've got our hybrid bow that is a combination of our typical, usual custom-made PVC bows, but it is a hybrid bow, as the name states, of course, that has a bamboo core as well as lightweight wooden seas on it. Really a piece of artistic mastery, if I do say so myself. Very powerful bow. Check it out there. We also uploaded our Manchu bow, which is a one-piece with slim tapered seas. And, man, that is a lightning shooting bow. I just recently had the honor of having my good buddy, MMA fighter, former UFC fighter, who is working his way back up there. Just watched him a few weeks ago destroy, as I predicted, Roger the Leprechaun Carroll here at the Florence Civic Center. Shout out to my boy the creepy weasel Steve Montgomery. Steve Montgomery was up here. He was here at the Barbarian Lounge. We were palling around doing some old training work that we have been known to do. And I had him shooting some bows, and he just recently placed his order, so he's getting that nice creepy weasel bow that's being worked on right now. But yeah, he got to shoot the Manchu. He got to shoot a lot of these bows that we're offering right now, and he was absolutely blown away at the power that you can get from such a lightweight bow. So check it out, OdinsonArchery.com. Also, check out Mitacon. That is the energy within, the power of Mitacon. And as usual, if you're a regular listener, you know that I usually have my trusty cup of Mitacon here. Check out Mitacon at mitoconusa.com. That's MITO-CHONUSA.com. Go there and learn all about Mitacon and check it out. We're going to be trying here soon. We're working out a deal with that sponsor to start carrying Mitacon in the store, so you'll be able to get it directly from the Barbarian Lounge, support the broadcast, and get some amazing product as well. All right, guys, let me go ahead and sip this. Sip that Mitacon and get going here. So we're going to be talking. I mulled over some different ideas. I've got some big guests lined up, and we're going to be releasing those shows very soon. But I had some different ideas. You know, recently, as I said, we recently went through the hurricane here. Hurricane Matthew blew through destruction and power outages, food shortages, and all these things like that. And you really got to see a lot of the prepping things that I talk about all the time. I got to see them in action. I got to use them. I mean, for me and my family, as I stated before when I talked about this, me and my family, we cruised through it, man. We didn't have any gas issues. We didn't have any food issues. Power was out, but we didn't have any problem cooking. You know, there was people down the road here. I think the Red Cross or somebody was down there giving out free meals, and you know, you didn't see the Odinson clan lined up in that line because they're like, oh, you can come down here and get a hot meal. I'm like, shit, motherfucker, we've been having hot meals every night. I mean, we're eating steak and shrimp, while you guys are eating chicken noodles. So, you know, we had everything covered here. And I got to thinking about it, and I wanted to go back over some of those. You guys remember a while back I did the show on the Conflicted card series. I'm going to cover a few more of those scenarios. We're going to draw a few cards out of the deck here. And I want to cover some more of these scenarios because I think these are important to think about. A lot of people just have this broad idea of exactly what prepping is for. You know, oh, it's for zombies or it's for the end of the world and meteor strikes and all that stuff like that. And you know what, man? Every single one of those things could absolutely be possible. Even zombies. Do I believe there's going to be undead zombies? No, the zombies are going to be the same people you see walking around with their heads crammed in their iPhone all day long. They're going to be walking around going, food, food. Those are the people I'm talking about. So things like that are definitely a reality. EMPs. I saw some crazy things just with the little bit of time that the lights were out here. I saw that. I saw people not knowing what to do when their refrigerators weren't working. They're like, oh my God, our food's going out. What are we going to do? So we saw all these things playing out, and I thought it was, you know, I didn't see anything really that surprised me too much, except for people's fascination with getting ice. I mean, there were damn near fist fights over ice. It amazed me that people wanted ice that bad. But most of the things I saw did not really shock me. And I think a lot of that comes through a lot of the scenario work that I play through as part of the mental game. You don't really grasp in the world of prepping and survival and preparedness in general. You don't really grasp just how important that mental game is. If you watch shows like Doomsday Preppers and all these other retarded shows they have out there, they'll try and make you think that the heart of prepping is in your wallet. How much money you have. I'm going to have to get this underground bunker with solar panels and all this ridiculous, you know, millions of dollars of things that they make you believe that you have to have. But it's absolutely not true. I've always been one who has believed in preparedness on a budget. The average person should have no trouble preparing at all if you do it correctly. There's avenues that you can use, and through the things that me and my family have adopted, a very natural type of lifestyle that doesn't require a lot of modern technological things, we were able just to coast right through this. And I think a lot of it comes through scenario work. We run through some of these conflicted cards, and we talk about these things a lot and play these different games out. And it makes a big difference. If you listen to some of my past shows, which I'm sure you have, if you haven't, what the fuck's wrong with you? But if you listen to my shows when I talk about the martial arts, when I talk about personal defense, all these different things like that, I always talk about playing the mental game, playing the scenario. Once you ask yourself all these questions, you know the answers. So when you're met with whatever situation it may be, it's easy for you to walk head on right into it without any sort of fear of trying to figure out the answer. What am I going to do now? I wasn't expecting that. Play these scenarios out. And this is where scenarios such as this conflicted scenarios that we run here, this is why they are so important. So let's jump into them. I've got a few cards. Let me see. I basically just grabbed a handful of cards out of here. Let me see. I got 1, 2, 3. Wait a minute. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11 cards. So if I have to grab a couple more, I will. But I just grabbed a few off the deck here. And we're going to jump into these and start playing these games out. Another sip here. Alrighty. So let's jump into the first scenario here. The first scenario. If the event you are preparing for becomes a reality, how will it change our society post-collapse, and what will the world look like? First off, when I'm breaking down this particular question, it says the event you're preparing for. I am not a proponent of preparing for an event. You should be preparing for events. Your preparedness should cover a wide spectrum of things, whether it be an EMP, whether it be a natural disaster, whether it be a fire or a wildfire or something like that, whether it be some sort of virus, some sort of crazy flu that's the government's created and released. Oh, did I say that out loud? But anything like that, your preparedness should engulf a massive number of events. Because when you do this, you're not ever caught off guard. It's the same as playing that mental game. And there's a lot of things you can do for these particular events. Now, I will say this. There are certain events that I would think that are going to be long-term. If you're talking, some sort of society collapse or anything like that. When you're talking about societal collapse in general, you're talking about a complete collapse of infrastructure. So when you're talking about things such as hurricanes, the hurricane, we saw infrastructure fall down here in South Carolina. We saw it go down, but immediately work began to build that infrastructure back up. For something to be a complete and total collapse of infrastructure, it would have to be something on a massive scale. You're talking about something the level of what happened in some areas after the Soviet Union collapsed. Talking about what's happened in places like in Africa with Somalia and Uganda and different areas like that. Very different than what we see here in the United States. So if we're talking about something that is going to issue a societal collapse, you have to think about things like economic collapse. Economic collapse is a big deal. People do not realize just how much we are printing ourselves into oblivion. They're like, well, I don't understand why there's a problem with money. Why the dollars, why there's so much debt. Why don't they just print enough money and pay off the debt? It's college people that say this a lot of time. You cannot print your way out of debt. Okay, I always use the analogy of the diamond. Why does a diamond have value? The reason a diamond has value is because of its scarcity. If you have plenty of dollar bills, then a dollar becomes nothing. It's the same reason we don't deal in sand here, okay? Because you can go outside and grab a handful of sand, all right? So economic collapse is a big deal. The United States has shipped most of their buying and selling, their manufacturing, a lot of that is done overseas now, and a lot of that's traded in dollars. I've said this before in a few shows, and I'll say it again. The only reason that we have not seen an economic collapse here right now is because that the U.S. dollar holds world reserve currency status. That is slowly being eradicated. It is just chipped away little bits at a time. China and Russia are making big moves, and once they drop the U.S. dollar as the world reserve currency, you're going to see shit officially hit the fan. You're going to be right in the middle of a Weimar Republic, where it takes a wheelbarrow full of money to buy a can of fucking soup. Okay? It's amazing how much people just don't really realize this. If you look at the original Great Depression that happened, they had massive people starving, a lot of people dying off just from not having food, not having jobs. It was a terrible time in this country. Understand that during that time, there were a massive amount more people who were self-sufficient. People had gardens. People stored food. And they still ran into the shitstorm when it whipped up. So now look at society today. We didn't have power here because of a damn hurricane. We didn't have power here for about a week, and people are already clamoring for ice, water, hot meals. So the lights were out here for less than 12 hours, and there was already a break-in down the street at a Dollar General store. So understand that when things begin to fall, if you've listened to some of the exclusive content, this is another reason why you need to be a member. The very first one I talked about was understanding exactly how to analyze your disaster. Whatever disaster you're in, when you have this formula that I put out, you can start to look at these different disasters and get a general idea how bad they're going to get, how long it's going to take for infrastructure to be resolved, and it'll give you a level of kind of a baseline reading. So if we're talking about how things will change post-collapse, also understand this, EMP, nuclear war, those things are on the table right now. People are not grasping this. I guess if you've got any sort of understanding of the world around you, and you haven't built your wall up too big or whatever, you can clearly see that there is a great deal of saber rattling coming from places like Russia. Now, Syria is that tipping point right now. I just had a friend of mine come back from Syria, and he was talking about some of the things he's seen there. It's just absolutely unbelievable. You've got the U.S. in there arming ISIS. You got Russia trying to defeat ISIS. And yes, the U.S. is arming ISIS. I know they tell you they're not, but lovely people like Hillary Clinton, the current Obama regime that is in power right now, is trying to push arming these rebels. Same with the way when they took down Syria. If they're allowed to do what they want to do in Syria, you're going to see a repeat of Libya. They ousted Gaddafi. After they did that, who rose up there? ISIS. The same people they were arming, these moderate rebels, if you want to call them that. No, it was ISIS. And now these guys are armed. Why do you think they're all driving the same trucks? Why do you think they got these brand new Toyotas? Fuck, I can't even afford a brand new Toyota. All right? So they got these brand new trucks out there. They're armed by the U.S. government. So there's a big problem that's brewing right now. And places like Russia, I've heard from people in the intelligence field that said places like Russia, they are not going to absorb the first strike. They will not. Think about any fight. If it's a big fight coming up, do you want to hit first? You want to hit second? No, they're going to hit first. And that's going to come in the form of something like an ICBM or even an EMP, which is basically a nuclear explosion in the upper atmosphere that will take out the power. And the lights will not cut on for a while. Okay? It could be some sort of hack attack. So, how is our society going to change post-collapse? I think you're going to see chaos. I've always attested that you're going to see chaos in a situation like that because people are not prepared for what is coming. They don't have food. They don't have water. I say, hey, you got bullets? Oh, yeah, I got like 200, 300 rounds. Oh, yeah, you know how fast that's going to go? I mean, it's going to burn out quickly. So you're going to see tribes of people rising up. This is why I did the episode last week on a time for shepherds. That time is rapidly approaching. It is rapidly approaching. the world is going to be in chaos. When America gets taken down and it's on the way, it is moving that path. I can tell you right now that if Hillary fucking Clinton gets in as the president, you are definitely going to see that within the next 4 years. That is what I am seeing. Because, you know, you got places like Russia, you got Putin already saying, hey, Clinton gets in, it's war. So, understand this. They're not going to absorb a first strike. So you're going to have to be prepared to hear the citizenry, because you're not going to find out till after the fact. The citizenry is going to have to be prepared and have ample preparations to absorb that first strike. Okay? So what's the world going to look like? It's going to look like chaos. But out of those ashes are where the shepherds are going to rise, where the strong tribes of men are going to arise. And when they rise up, they will take back their land. Notice I did not say nation. I'm not talking about restoring America to what it was. That's not what I'm talking about. I'm talking about micronations being built up. Who knows? We may even see the South come back again. You never know. You don't know how it's going to play out, but it's going to be up to tribes of men who are willing to stand up and take back their land. So the next card we got here, let's jump into this one. After the collapse, people start bartering for goods and services. Just a real quick side note before I finish this. Odinson Archery, we do use the bartering system there. So if you have something you want to trade, well, we put a post up the other day, so check it out. If you got something you want to trade, hit me up, hit them up on there as well, and we'll see if we can work out a trade. So after the collapse, people start bartering for goods and services. Illegal drugs have become a hot commodity in your region, and one day, while showing off your wares at the local trading post, someone tries to barter you by paying you in drugs. There are no laws anymore to say what substances are legal or illegal, but you know that these are harmful and addictive substances. Would you take the drugs in exchange for the goods and services after the collapse? Why or why not? So, if we're talking drugs, I am not a big proponent of the criminalization of things such as marijuana. I'm just not. It is a plant that is grown naturally. You don't hear people dying from overdoses on marijuana. You see a lot of the medicinal uses that marijuana affords people. Now, I will say this. There are two different types of people I find that are marijuana users. You have one side who will smoke a joint, eat some edibles, whatever it may be, and they become highly creative. And just a very creative individual, they can do some amazing things. And I don't know if it just focuses their brain. Maybe their brain's in chaos all the time, and that just helps them focus their brain and get shit done. But the other side is the one that just wants to smoke marijuana, sit around, eat cheesy poofs, and watch fucking American Dad or something on TV. Okay? Watching Family Guy or whatever the fuck. So that's the other kind. The second kind that I just mentioned, that tends to be the majority. So understand that before you start bringing it into your community. However, it's not going to be the growing of things like marijuana that I think you're going to see in times such as these, such as a post-collapse. I believe what you're going to see are things like meth and heroin, which is on the upswing right now, on epidemic proportions right now. These are killers. These are community killers. These are culture killers, and I absolutely and utterly condemn the use of them. I've seen people who are good, strong people who have fallen to such things, and I don't see any positive use. So if I'm looking at this, you have to ask yourself, what are you willing to bring back into your community? Because I'm assuming that it's not just you walking around out there, it's a community. All right? So if you're taking these back to your community, do you want, right now, do you want to look outside and see people sitting in cars shooting up heroin in the across the street at the park? Is that the type of community you want to live in? If that's the case, then yeah, go ahead and take them. That's not the type of community I want to live in, because that's not rebuilding anything of strength. Okay? And that is what is going to be vital. I don't need people walking around, completely out of their mind, or laying in bed all day because they're high on whatever it is they're doing. And that's another thing when you start thinking about the negative aspects that a lot of people will exhibit when they're on marijuana. I don't want people smoking weed and thinking they're just going to sit around all day long while the rest of us are out there gathering food, building up our communities. Okay? So you have to understand the negative impacts. Everybody likes to get caught up on the positive, and as I preface this by saying that I understand there are many, many positive aspects of marijuana, and I'm not of the mentality of criminalizing it. However, if we're talking about my community, or a community that I am living in, do I want people who are going to sit around and be lazy and not contribute to my community? Well, maybe if they're one of these people that tends to smoke weed and they get very creative, they might offer some great things for the community. But that's going to have to be determined at the time. But when you start talking about moving in things such as meth, you talk about moving in fucking heroin. I'm of the opinion, if you want to do your community some favor, go find your local heroin dealer, go find your local meth dealer, and put a bullet between their eyes. That's right, I said it. Right there. Philippine style, motherfucker. I see no reason that these people should even be given any level of quarter whatsoever. Okay? So, no, fuck that shit. I don't want it in my community now. I don't want it in my community afterwards. Next card here. 2 women from outside your group were caught trying to steal your supplies. They told you that they are mothers with children, and they needed the food. Your supplies will run out in a matter of days. You have nothing you could spare without harming your own group. A supply run would almost certainly cost lives. If you set the women free, you risk them trying again and maybe using deadly force. If you keep them prisoners, their children will most likely die. How would you handle this situation and why? All right, a couple things here. First off, in a society, and we're talking about, in the level that this card is written, we're talking about a post-collapse society. You're in a situation where your food matters, okay? Whether you eat tomorrow is a big fucking deal. So if we're talking about thieves at this time, thieves are to be given no quarter. Yes, I say that thieves are to be giving no quarter. And the reason is, the chances are these 2 women are not just 2 women that happen to leave their kids behind, okay? They say, oh, we've got children. Well, who's watching your children right now, madam? Who's watching your kids? That tells me right away that there's more people. So if these 2 leave and go back to their group, who's to say that their group is not going to come back and everybody gets, and we end up in a firefight, okay? All right? Those 2 women may actually be the scouts. You see this a lot of time in different hustles and different areas around the world where robberies occur. You'll see criminals use women as decoys to actually close the distance and to distract attention. And they know from a morality standpoint that you are more likely to release 2 women who happen to also be mothers, whether that story is true or not. You're more likely to release them and show them quarter if they give you this story, because just that's the way societal norms have built up. I'm of the mentality that you cannot afford to do this. Okay? If you have a set community that is set up, you have a base of operations, this is where we live now. You cannot afford to let them go. You can't. So you have 2 choices. They're either dealt with or they're imprisoned. You cannot afford to let them go. Okay? Another thing, aspect of this that I read and it makes me think about a good bit. It's something I've thought about quite a bit as it relates to preparedness and the establishment of community during any sort of bad situation. And that is the ability to be mobile. If you are mobile, if you are a mobile unit, who has the ability to move your campsite from place to place, you run into a few different issues, good and bad. One of the bad issues is you don't have an established location where you can absolutely set yourself down. You don't have to constantly pick up and move using resources, using energy, gasoline in many cases. You could set up camp and just have it there, especially if you've taken up community in a small town. Okay, if you listen to my last episode that I did on A Time for Shepherds, I talked about the concept of, from the show The Walking Dead, I talked about the way the society was set up by the governor on there. A lot of people view the governor as this horrible psychopath and everything and that. And yeah, he had some issues. Anybody in a situation like that would. But the society he had set up was actually fairly well-rounded. You had a town that all entrances were cut off, heavily armed with security with a wall, yes, build a wall, to keep people out. Inside the community, everyone went about their daily lives. They had stores set up, they had trade, they had all these other things going on. Nobody asked any questions about where the shit come from, okay? That was compartmentalized at the top by the shepherd, who was the governor in this particular show. But he had all these things compartmentalized. So he sent people out to get supplies and whatnot. And yeah, they were gotten from some less than favorable means a lot of times. However, he had a great society set up there. And some people may question the morality of how he set that society up. Well, you know what? You can't really judge the guy who's on the field while you're sitting in the chair. That's kind of how I look at it. In that sort of situation, those people that lived in that town, they didn't give a shit. All they knew is that they were safe, they were well fed, and life had returned to normal. However, if you are mobile, it prevents these people from coming back to your initial location. Okay? If you have a mobile campsite, that means that you can move from spot to spot, meaning no one can ever pinpoint your locations to steal your shit. So there is a positive aspect to that. You will never build anything of substance, anything that has any sort of fortitude, any sort of solid foundation behind it, if you do not set up a permanent site. So think about that. Next one here, you see a large mob breaking into your neighbor's house. You know he is there and with his wife and children. You have about 24 rounds of ammo, roughly one for each mob member. You are the only person capable of defending your own family. The mob passes your house and didn't notice you at all. Would you step out of the shadows and risk your own life to help your neighbor, or would you stay safe and protect your own family? Why? This is all going to be dependent on whether or not you have any sort of alliance with your neighbor. Your neighbor may actually be a very formidable member of your group. I'll give a great example. I think I talked about this in the last show, so I'll cover it very briefly. During our situation we had here, our neighbor, she's an old lady. She can barely walk. She smokes like 3 packs of cigarettes a day. She's always hacking. And, I mean, when it comes to looking at her and saying, she would be a valuable member of the tribe here, she's not that person, okay? I will say this, out of all the people that we interacted with throughout the situation here with the hurricane, she was the most vital person around us. Yes, she was, absolutely. She, we worked out kind of a deal to where, she lives there by herself. So I would sit out and provide some security. If she needed anything, she contacted me. She had a way to contact me directly here. She had a grill that she was willing to use her supplies to cook food on. She brought us food a couple of days. We got her prescriptions for her and brought them back for her. So we were able to form this alliance that was beneficial for both of us. Granted, we could have cooked our own food and all those things like that, but we didn't have to. So it allowed us time to do other things that were necessary. It also gave us that downtime that we needed. You can't be primed 100% 24 hours a day. You just can't do it. All right, so what sort of alliance do you have with your neighbor? In our situation, with our neighbor there, I absolutely would have stepped out of the shadows because she's a vital member of our group. She was vital to the family's survival. Now, we had prepping situation. We had the ability to be prepared over here. However, in the case of a lot of people who are not, if they've got a vital neighbor like that, they may definitely need to step out and do something. The one thing I think about right off the bat is, you know, he says you have about 24 rounds of ammo. 24 rounds of ammo. You've got 24 fucking shots. You need to do better. Let me just tell you that. If that's all the ammo you got, you need to do better. Okay? I mean, that's ridiculous. It annoys me to no end when I say, hey, man, you got ammo? Yeah, man, I got 100 rounds of such and such round. I'm like, that's nothing. You guys just do not do enough shooting if you think that's enough ammunition. I used to go to the range, man. We could burn through, me and my dad used to burn through several thousands of rounds in a matter of hours. Okay? And that's just casual shooting, stopping to reload. All right? In a bad situation, when things have gotten to a point where you've got mobs going door to door, you're going to wish you had plenty of ammo. Now's the time to get it, especially before November 8th. Hint, hint, nudge, nudge. So should you step out? Do you have an alliance with your neighbor? I would say yes. My neighbor's across the street. I don't know anything about them. Fuck them. Okay? So, you know, that's the situation that you need to think about. You need to factor these things in. Because at the end of the day, you owe the most allegiance to your family. Okay? So, you know, you need to factor all these things in. Describe your ideal post-apocalyptic community with less than 30 people. What key skills would everyone have? What would the role structure look like? And how would you run the camp if you were the leader? So the ideal community with less than 30 people. I think I just talked about that with the way things were set up with the community in The Walking Dead with the governor. Yes, that's right. I am actually one of the few fans of the governor, I think. I don't know if there are other fans, but the way he had his community set up was very solid. All right? There was everyone had to do their fair share of work to keep the community going. Everyone had security. Everyone had downtime. That's another thing a lot of people don't realize is the psychological aspect of any sort of disaster type situation. We've a couple people told me, my wife talked about it a little bit too, of the psychological thing of, you know, just having to get up and, you know, you don't have any power each and every day. These things, you need a break. You need something to help morale stay up. You need to be able to have games. You need to have different things you can use to keep morale up. Just being able to watch an hour-long TV show or a 2-hour-long movie might do amazing things for morale. So I would say have the ability to do that. You notice when I'm talking about the community set up by the governor, he had things such as community dances. They had people playing music. They had radio. They had entertainment. They had all these different things going on to keep the morale up, because happy people are hardworking people. Okay? What key skills should everyone have? What key skills should everyone have? I would say that key skills, you need to be people who are willing to work. If you're not going to work, fuck you. You have no place in my community. I want you gone. You have to be willing to do your work. That's one of the problems I've had with establishing groups in the past, is that not every person is willing to do the work. If you're not willing to do the work, I have zero use for you. If you're somebody that wants to sit around and complain all day, I got a problem with I have no use for you. Be gone. Go find somebody else. Okay? Everyone also needs to be trained to an extent with at least basic firearms knowledge. I mean, they need to be able to work a weapon. They need to be able to clear basic malfunctions. They need to be able to clean it and be able to hit a target. All right? They don't have to be fucking operators. They don't have to run into there like they're Navy SEALs or anything. I don't have to have that out of them. But I need that if things get bad, I need them to be able to grab a gun and do some work. Okay? You need people in the community that are going to have medical skills. Of course, you're going to have specialists in your groups, but you also need to have basic medical skills. Can you know how to apply a tourniquet? Do you carry a tourniquet? Do you have different Do you carry a medical kit on you? Are you trained to use it? Do you know how to treat a tension pneumothorax? Do you know these things? If you don't know them, find somebody that can teach you. Okay? Different key skills also, that they need to be able to, you need to have those people that are willing to do work that is assigned to them. All right? It's always funny to me that when you start talking, you use the concept of something known as what I would just call simply women's work. Okay? There is such thing as women's work and men's work. Anything that you can do, I can do better. That's not always the case. Okay? There are some women in groups who are not going to be fit to be the warriors, no matter how much they want to be. All right? I say if they think they can fit in with everyone else, they get the same training. If they can't, nothing's handed to them. You carry the same weight. You do the same shit. If you can do that, you can go. If you cannot, there's things you can do for us. Because people, whenever they hear the term women's work, they think all of a sudden that that's a degrading term. That absolutely is the furthest from the truth. Because the women are the ones that keep the camp rolling while the warriors are out doing their things. If you've got people going out there who are getting supplies, bringing supplies back, getting water, going and making, they may be making raids. That's a possibility. Whatever the situation may be, they may be needing to train. There has to be somebody that is there to provide food. There has to be somebody there that can do the work of cleaning things. There has to be someone there who is raising the children to be the next generation of doing these things. The women are such a vital component to a community. It absolutely is the case. But a lot of guys, or a lot of guys think they automatically fall into the category of if I'm a man, I get to be the warrior. Well, that's not the case too, because there's a lot of guys that aren't going to live up to that mantle as well. So with those guys, what we're going to do is they're going to move back, and they're going to be cooking as well. They're going to be cleaning as well. So understand that the role is vital. The same way as I talked about my neighbor. She couldn't fight. She probably couldn't fight her way out of a wet paper bag. She fights to go up and down the stairs to her home. However, the work she did was vital to my survival. It enabled me to not have to worry about fixing food, and I could focus on things like security. Okay? So understand that when I say things, that's going to be women's work, that's not a degrading term at all. That's a vital aspect of a community. They're the nurturers in society. They're the ones that are going to build up that next generation. They're the ones helping take care of the children. If you don't have women in your group who can do these things, your society's not going to last very long. How would you run the camp if you were the leader? Well, exactly as I talked about in our last episode on A Time for Shepherds. You need to have a level of trust with your people. As I heard the quote said that that if you're a good leader, your men will follow you, even if it's just out of curiosity. And you've got to have that level of trust amongst your people. If they trust you, they will follow you. If they trust your decisions, if you do not lead them astray, they will follow you. For your community, you're going to have to offer things that are going to, it has to be a fair community. It has to be a trustworthy community, obviously. You're going to have to offer a high level of security for your people, because when people are secure, they feel safe, they work harder, they will be more productive. Think about it. That's the way our society is built. Our society is built this exact same way. There's a leadership. You have shepherds, you have sheepdogs, and you have sheep. Your average get up and go to work every day, you fall into the category, as much as you don't want to admit it, of sheep. Your sheepdogs are going to be your law enforcement military, and your shepherds, as horrible as it is to say, are the psychopaths up in Washington. So think about that. Get rid of your shitty shepherds. All right. So trust is a vital component to your community. Let's see here. A nearby city has just been nuked. Thankfully, you planned ahead and prepared a small underground bunker, fully stocked for you and your family. Your family is safely inside, and you started to close the hatch when the front door slams open and six frantic neighbors. The nuclear fallout is pouring into your neighborhood as your neighbors grab the hatch, trying to force their way in. There is not enough room or food in the bunker for them. You only have time for two choices. You can either let them in and risk your family's survival, or raise your pistol and shoot innocent people through the hatch. What would be your decision? I would shoot these people through the hatch. Notice I did not call them innocent people, because if you are going to come into my bunker and cause harm to me and my family, well, you're not very innocent right now. You have become the enemy. Okay? There's a fantastic episode. I want to say it was The Twilight Zone that was along this lines. It shows basically the gist of the episode was there was a family. They were all sitting together, and they were with their neighbor friends, and they were all hanging out, and they were having just a great day. Well, a nuclear war is declared. You know, the thing comes up, the siren goes off, and everybody runs into their hatch. And the funny thing about this episode, real quick before I get into it here, is one of the neighbors was very prepared. He was the main character here. A couple of neighbors were laughing. Oh, nothing's ever going to happen. You're so silly. We don't need any of this. Huh? You've got a bunker. That's so funny. And the other neighbor was kind of somewhere in between. So nuclear war gets declared. The ICBMs are coming in. And if you don't know, an ICBM could probably get here in a roughly 20 minutes, if I remember correctly. So, yeah, put that in your pipe and smoke it for a bit. So, and Hillary Clinton told Russia that we've got like a 6-minute response time. So, yeah, yeah. If you didn't see that in the debate, that was quite interesting. So, anyway, in this episode, the people with the bunker, the main characters, they run into their bunker there, and all of a sudden the other people start scrambling. They run back to their house trying to get this and get that, and they come back and they want to get in the bunker because they don't have a bunker. Right? So they're like, oh, let me in here. And the guy's like, we don't have enough food, we don't have enough water, and we don't have enough oxygen. There's going to be a limited amount of oxygen that these bunkers can store. So he's like, we don't have that. So this guy starts getting violent, and they're outside the door, and they're beating in the door, and he's out there with the other neighbors, and they're all wanting in. He's like, look, we can't let you in. And these people become violent, like, I hate you, and they're beating on it with hammers, and they got pry bars, they're trying to get the door open, the guy's got a gun, he's about to shoot them, and it's a very interesting scene, and that episode's always stood out to me, comparing the prepared to the unprepared, because you may think these unprepared people, you hang out with them all the time, and everything's great, but when shit gets bad, and the law of self-preservation starts kicking in, do not think that these people will not beat your door down to get in there. There's going to be a limited amount of oxygen, so if you start letting all these people in, your family's going to die. If you start letting these people in, they're using the water, your family's going to die. Start coming in, using all your food, family's going to die. So they are not innocent by any means. So basically what I would do is I would line that front side up right there at that hatch, and I would shoot anything that tried to get through there to harm my family. Next card. You are at a business convention 1,200 miles away from your family when an EMP goes off and stops the entire civilization in its tracks. None of the means of communication or transportation work. The banking system and all the comforts of modern civilization are broken, setting the entire country back hundreds of years. Infrastructure won't be fixed anytime soon, and you aren't ready for this. You have $300 in your pocket in a few hours before all shelves are empty. Would you stay local or head for home? Whatever your decision is, what would you buy with the money and why? So, the first question would be, why are you not prepared? By having some shit in your car. If you've listened to my episode when I've talked about some different aspects of survival and bug out bags and everything, I always suggest to have a main bag at your home and have other bags and gear in your vehicle that stay there all the time. That is very, very important. You need to have weapons. You need to have gear in your vehicle whenever you're traveling. This should be the same as if you're packing your luggage. That bag should should stay in your car. You should not remove it by any means. You should have the means to do what needs to be done. In an EMP situation, you can't go anywhere. You've got money in your pocket. I would say I would try and get as much water and food as possible. Probably water would be the key thing. I would want foods that are going to allow me to keep moving. Power foods. Water's going to be a big deal, especially when you're going to have to basically move 1,200 miles, because that's what I would do. I would not stay local. I have a thing I've worked out with my wife. I've told her, we've worked it out together, because I tend to be pretty local, but she works probably about 40, 50 miles away from here. So I've informed her, or a lot of times I travel as well. We've all worked it out that if anything happens, whoever is home is to stay home. And the reason being is the other person, we know automatically that the other person is on their way home. Okay? By hook or by crook, we are on our way home. It's going to be very, very tempting to leave, to go find them. But the problem is if I leave one way and she's coming home another way, well, our paths never cross, then we both end up basically in opposite ends of the spectrum. So one person, whoever's closest to home, if your family's home, your goal needs to always be to get back home. All right? If your home is no longer there, maybe it was a nuclear blast and the EMP was the first strike and a nuclear blast followed, and your city or town, wherever you were living, has been leveled. You need to head to your secondary location. Don't have a secondary location? Why not? So you need to plan that ahead of time as well. In an EMP type situation, I would say I would probably say a good idea would be to try and find a bicycle of some sort as well. Bicycle will get you where you need to go. Low energy, you can travel good distances on a bike and still carry a good bit of gear as well. A lot of guys push towards the idea of a bug-out bike. I actually think that's a pretty good idea. There's a lot of bug-out carts and equipment that you can actually load up in your vehicle that will make your travels much easier. Also, understand ideas where your river routes and streams run. You may be able to get a boat and travel that way. I used to work near the Santee River, or I'm sorry, not Santee. Or I worked down in Santee near the lake down there, and where the river systems were. And I had talked to my wife about, in these situations of an EMP, I mean, I've got a couple different ways I can travel home. One's either going to be coming back up the roadways, not really up the roadways, but just off the roadways. You don't want to travel up the roadways by foot or even by bicycle because you're a wide open target. But the other way was traveling via kayak up the river system, up the stream system, to get most of the way back home. So start planning these things out ahead of time. It's always good to have a roadmap, because when things go down, even in something as small as a natural disaster, you will see your communications have some issues. There was a lot of cell phone issues, internet issues, even with people with their towers, with their 4G towers and everything. Just general cell service was very, very shaky during the hurricane we had here. So imagine something like an EMP. That's going to be gone. You're going to need to be able to map your course back home, because you may not be able to follow those roadways the whole way. So I would say definitely get water. You need to get things that are going to allow you to travel and move. Okay? You don't want anything heavy. You should honestly have this stuff in there, but water's going to be the big key. You should have something like a life straw where you can filter water. Very small piece of gear that's less than $15 that you can throw in your kit and keep on you. So with that $300, that's probably what I would say probably try and get a bicycle or something like that, to where you can move quickly to get where you need to be. Because things are only going to get worse in these places. Trust me. Next card. Your bug out location is far off the beaten path, but you feel you need to put something as a barrier to discourage people from heading down your way. There aren't enough materials to build a physical barrier. It has to be a psychological one. What would cause people to turn away just from seeing it? What kind of psychological barrier would you build, and how would it be effective? The best psychological barrier in a situation like this is going to be a tried and true method that has been used throughout history. It's going to be bones. It's going to be the heads of things. And yes, I know that's brutal for a lot of people, but you barbarians shouldn't care about that. You guys probably got a chuckle out of that, didn't you? It's going to be things like animal bones. It's going to be bones hanging from trees. It may be even the the body parts of some looters. Hell, who knows? But things that are going to be psychological sort of barriers are going to be different symbols that are going to promote death. If you're heading, think about it, if you're heading somewhere and you see skulls, if you see things of animal bones laying around, hanging from trees and things like that, that's gonna deter you quite a bit. Any sort of terrifying imagery is always going to push people back. So yeah, just take the Vlad the Impaler route and just put some people up on some stakes. That'll move them away. Next one. After a meteor shattered the country and parts of the world, a war for resources broke out, which left the political scene in complete chaos. Your local community has been completely destroyed, and after months of struggling to survive, communists appear offering help. They can provide food, medicine, water, shelter, and the conveniences that you haven't had in years. All they ask in exchange is that you join them. Disease and hunger has crippled your group, and your loved ones are suffering beyond belief. Would you join them or not? Why? That's an interesting concept there. In reality, communism typically does not offer these sorts of things. It's very funny. Communism doesn't usually offer these sort of things. Communism usually has, they say, oh, everybody's equal, but in reality, the people at the top are still getting the shit, and everybody's equally treated like crap at the bottom. So typically you don't find this with communists. I would say that if you are prepared accordingly, you should be able to survive without the help of outsiders. However, I will also throw this out there just as a mental note. Everybody talks about revolution. They talk about taking back the country and all these things like that. Nobody ever talks about the aspects that go into a successful revolution. Everyone has aspirations of the American Revolution and things like that, and they say, well, 3% of the population rose up and fought back and everything. There's several things that they do not really take into consideration. One of those things is the logistics of the ocean. The British were having to travel back and forth across the ocean. Okay, travel back and forth, back and forth, back and forth. So logistically, they were probably suffering mass casualties just going back and forth to keep that fight going. So you have a logistics issue. That would not be an issue here in this country. It would not be a logistics issue. If you a civil war and American Revolution, it's going to happen right here. So the enemy can keep coming until there's no more enemy. All right? Also, you have to factor in the fact in American Revolution is it wasn't just 3%. There was other people helping as well. There were French, I believe some Germans were helping. So there were a lot of different groups who were aiding the rebellion. Any successful rebellion always has the funding and helping of an outside larger group. It's just the way it's always been. That was one of the things that has hurt many revolutions throughout history. When I talked about the Pirates Republic with the golden age of piracy and things like that, when they were attempting to establish their own sovereign nation there and they were fighting back against the British, one of their biggest issues was they did not have any help. So you had the might of the British Empire against a small group of pirates who were honestly divided on many issues. So, having said all that, I ask you, if the help of communists would aid in your winning your revolution, would you be willing to accept that help? That's a tough decision. That's a very tough decision because after you have defeated the bad guy, whoever you're going against, now you have to deal with the communists unless you yourself will become a communist. I'm not a big fan of communists. I'm not a fan of socialism. I'm not a fan of any of these things.